This was their finest hour. Churchill said it like a verdict and a vow. The room was tired. Britain was cornered. The map behind him showed a continent swallowed by shadow. But that line cut through the smoke and fear like a bell at midnight. This was their finest hour. Not their easiest. Not their happiest. Their finest. What if your hardest season could also become your finest hour? What if the very pressure you hate is the exact pressure that can harden your resolve until it holds? Tonight, we set the lamps low and step into his letters, his speeches, his private notes, because inside them is a plan for standing firm when everything around you wants you to sit down. June 1940. The Luftwaffe circles like sharks. France is collapsing. America watches. The House of Commons feels tired, anemic, emptied by evacuation. Churchill rises. He doesn't promise comfort. He promises a fight. He doesn't flatter the room. He names the hour. The Battle of Britain is about to begin. And he paints the stakes in a sentence that makes the spine straighten. If they fail, the world sinks into a new dark age. Then, the line that still vibrates today. This was their finest hour. He wasn't predicting victory. He was assigning meaning. He was teaching a rule. In crisis, you must name the hour before the hour names you. Think about your life right now. The job that seems to be shrinking you. The relationship that's mostly gray weather. The debt, the diagnosis, the silence. Most days, the hour names you. It says, weak, losing, late. But Churchill flips the script. He drops a marker into time. This hour, of all hours, can be your finest. Not because it feels good, because it forces you to decide. What he meant then still matters now. Leadership starts by telling the truth about the stakes and then refusing to bow to them. But that public thunder had a private cost. He bled in letters. He carried his own weather. After the Dardanelles disaster, after resignation and humiliation, after headlines that treated him like a national mistake, he had to rebuild himself. Not in front of cameras, not with a standing ovation. In a chair, alone, with a blank canvas and a trembling hand. He wrote an essay called Painting as a Pastime. He didn't write it to impress art critics. He wrote it because he needed a discipline to stop the black dog from dragging him under. He starts simple. He picks up brushes. He mixes color. He watches sunlight move across an old wall. He learns, stroke by slow stroke, that the mind can be trained away from its own cliffs. Here's the second rule he lived. When the storm owns your mind, build a daily craft that gives you back the helm. It doesn't have to be painting. It can be a run, a chapter, 10 lines in a journal, a rough draft, a prayer, a garden. Most people wait for mood to move them. Churchill didn't wait. He set an appointment with steadiness. He didn't ask, do I feel like it? He asked, will this act shift the weather? The old soldier found that in the quiet of practice, panic has fewer places to hide. Now, listen to the cadence that runs beneath his bravado. It's a 3-beat drum built from habit, not heroics. 1. Set the stakes with brutal clarity. 2. Claim a craft that returns your mind to you. 3. Move anyway. He had a private shorthand for that third beat. When the day was mud, he wrote KBO. Keep buggering on. Crude? Yes. Candid? Absolutely. It was his way of turning forward motion into a moral duty. Not because the motion was glorious, but because it would keep him from drowning in stillness. We return to 1940. Fighter Command is flying itself into exhaustion. London watches the sky like a widow waiting at a rail station. Churchill visits the pilots, boys really, and he sees that they are spent. He also sees that they are the thin line between breath and blackout. He returns to Parliament and says the sentence that became a stone pillar inside British memory. Never was so much owed by so many to so few. He isn't just praising pilots, he's teaching and accounting. Pay attention to the few who hold the line for you. The parent who drags themselves to a double shift. The nurse who stays late. The friend who shows up when you don't deserve it. The colleague who covers your blind side. In your life, there are always a few. Thank them. Emulate them. Build your days so you can be one of them for someone else. Because this is the hidden architecture of courage. It doesn't just happen inside you, it happens around you. Which brings us to an overlooked moment in 1943. The House of Commons chamber had been bombed out. A war had torn not just bodies, but rooms. They had to rebuild the place where arguments become laws and words become oxygen. Churchill stands up and makes a plea that sounds like poetry, but functions like engineering. We shape our buildings. Thereafter, they shape us. He was arguing for the old shape, small, crowded benches facing each other, because the room itself forced clarity, forced debate, forced heat that could turn into light. He was talking about architecture. He was also talking about your kitchen table, your desk, your phone home screen, your calendar, your commute. We shape our buildings, but thereafter, they shape us. If you want to change your courage, change your surroundings. Put the journal by the kettle. Put the book where the doom scroll lives. Put your running shoes by the door, not buried in a closet like a guilty secret. Shrink the distances between you and the habits that make you durable. Stretch the distances between you and the habits that eat your nerve. There's a reason Churchill kept a map room. It wasn't just to track convoys, it was to keep his eyes on the whole instead of the noise. What's your map room? A weekly review with yourself? A wall with goals that are visible, physical, and stubborn? A whiteboard with the 3 problems that actually matter this week? Most of us lose courage because we lose the plot. We drown in details and forget the direction. The map room is where you decide, again, what the fight is really about. And there's something else in those letters and diaries. He took his failures personally and seriously, but not permanently. After Gallipoli, he could have disappeared. He volunteered for the front. He took responsibility. He stood in the mud. He let the cold punish his pride. Then he returned, not as a spotless hero, but as a man forged by his own mistakes. That's the 3rd lesson you can't outgrow. Your failure is an education if you refuse to waste it. He didn't wait to be forgiven by history. He went and built the kind of days that would deserve forgiveness. Now, if you've been walking with me this far, I want you to picture a dim room, a desk lamp, a coffee that's gone cold, papers with ring stains, a pen that runs like a bayonet. There's a letter half written to a future that hasn't answered yet. You're the one holding the pen. What would Churchill tell you to write at the top? He'd say, name the hour. Then he'd say, choose your craft. Then he'd say, move. You don't have to roar to be a lion. You have to refuse to be told by fear what your life is worth today. He knew the room could grow ugly. His closest partner, Clementine, wrote to him when his temper cut too deep. She told him he was growing harsh, that the pressure was making him flay people who were trying to help. He read it. He took it. He tried to be kinder. Courage without kindness rots into contempt. He knew that too. The pilot's nerves, the secretary's midnight, the sailor's cold hands. He carried visions of their endurance in his pocket, and that is why his words didn't turn stale. They tasted like someone who had actually paid the price. So, how do we carry this into the life you wake up to tomorrow? You start with the sentence that flips the weather. This could be my finest hour. Not because life will drop a miracle on your doorstep, but because you will decide what you will give to this day. Then you build a small craft that keeps your hands moving when your heart stalls. It could be 20 minutes of learning. It could be a phone call you avoid. It could be a walk in the rain. And then you make your room complicit in your courage. You make it easy to be who you want to be and hard to become the person your fear prefers. The ground truth is harsh. Some battles go long. Some cuts refuse to heal on the schedule you want. Churchill might stand in front of your grief and say nothing for a minute, the way men who've seen darkness sometimes do. Then he'd clear his throat and try to turn your eyes towards the edge of the cloud, where the first light usually hides. He would not promise a painless path. He would promise a worthy one. Quick check-in before we push forward. Which of these 3 Churchill habits will you try this week? Naming the hour, choosing a daily craft, or reshaping your space? Tell me below. I read everyone. And if this kind of history for strength helps you carry the day, tap like and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter we build together. All right, back to the war room. There's a detail people miss about their finest hour. He wasn't just speaking to soldiers. He was speaking to clerks who kept the lights on, to mothers who turned basements into nurseries, to old men who watched for parachutes in the night, to children who learned to sleep between sirens. He democratized courage. He made it not just a badge for the chosen, but a duty for the ordinary. That's you. Your finest hour might not look like victory parades. It might look like not snapping at your kid when the day wrecked you. It might look like finishing a course when boredom wants to win. It might look like calling the doctor. It might look like walking back into a room to apologize. Let's lean harder into the second lesson. Craft as counterweight. When Churchill started painting, he discovered something practical. Attention changes emotion. When you direct your eyes and your hands toward a small, honest task, the room in your head gets quieter. The blues don't vanish. They lose volume. He learned to build a narrow bridge between a wave of dread and the next steady action. If painting could do it for a man carrying a nation on his shoulders, what could 10 minutes of focused work do for you? When panic gathers, you don't need a grand gesture. You need a direction and a start. And starting small is not weakness. It's how you take back command from a storm. Now the third lesson: shape your surroundings before they shape you. Churchill argued for a chamber that forces debate because he wanted a room that would remind leaders of their duty to collide, to clarify, to refine ideas in heat. Your phone and your desk are little parliaments too. If your home screen is a candy shop, your day will run on sugar. If your desk is a shrine to distraction, your work will kneel before noise. What if you rebuilt your chamber? What if you made the path to courage obvious and the path to avoidance ridiculous? One poster with the line you need. One table cleared. One alarm for the craft. One friend who has permission to ask, "Did you move today?" We think courage is a mood. Churchill thought courage was a craft supported by rooms, routines, and ruthless clarity about stakes. He also thought courage was contagious. That's why he spoke the way he did. He wasn't only directing planes. He was lighting the pilot light in millions of kitchens. He was trying to change what Britain imagined about itself. Your words carry the same power in smaller rooms. Tell your team the stakes. Tell your family the hope. Speak about the hour as if it were the hour that could define you. Watch how the air changes when you describe reality honestly and tie it to a promise of your own conduct. And promise yourself this: when failure comes, you'll take the lesson, not the label. Churchill's worst decisions haunted him. He didn't erase them. He outworked them. He read more. He listened more. He made new rooms. He created new rhythms. He carved out a space where he could be wrong on Monday and better on Friday. That's not mythology. That's method. That's available to you. I want you to hear the sound of his steps in a blackout, the cane tapping, the boots grinding grit on stone. He visits bomb sites at night and walks past doorways where families breathe like they're hiding from an animal. He looks up at cracked beams and broken glass. He knows those rooms will be rebuilt, and he knows those rooms will rebuild people. The stoop becomes a little altar. The kitchen becomes a little commons. He would have loved the idea that you can architect courage at home. So, write your sentence. Maybe it goes like this: today is not easy. Today is mine. Or this: the battle's not over me, it's in me, and I choose my side. Or, if you want to borrow his blunt force, KBO. Smile at it when you don't feel like it. Put it where you'll see it when you most want to disappear. Then go do something very small and very honest. Lay another brick. Mix another color. Make another call. The day might not clap, but you will have kept your promise. And when you feel small, remember the few. You don't need millions. You need a handful of allies. 2 or 3 who will remind you of the hour, push a cup of tea into your hand, and walk with you to the door you're avoiding. Be one of the few for someone else. Stay late when it counts. Send the note that steadies a friend. People will owe you more than they will ever know, not because you will boast, but because you built a little bridge over a dark patch and let them cross before you. Before we close, go back to the exact sentence we started with. This was their finest hour. Hear how final it sounds. Hear how present it is. It's oddly conjugated. Was, but it also is. He wrote the future like a memory. That's leadership. That's a skill you can practice. Talk about your tomorrow as if it already carries the mark you intend to give it. Speak it to your mirror. Speak it to your team. Don't lie. Name the danger. Then name your duty. and name the smallest act that proves you mean it. If Churchill were here, standing by your desk, looking at the notes and the bills and the unfinished draft, he wouldn't flatter you. He'd point at the chair and say, "Sit." He'd point at the clock and say, "Start." He'd look at your room and tell you what to move out of reach and what to keep within an arm's stretch. He'd nod toward the window and tell you to get some air. He'd point at your phone and tell you to master it or smash it. Then, when you look beaten, he'd say gently, "This could be your finest hour." And because he believed it, you might too. So here's your plan. Before you sleep, set the stage. Move one thing in your room so courage has a shorter walk tomorrow. Before you work, name the hour and the stakes. During the work, keep one craft close that can drag you back from the edge. And if the day knocks you down, write 3 letters, KBO, then stand up. Step back into the hour you just named. It isn't perfect. It doesn't need to be. It needs to be yours. We shape our buildings. Thereafter, they shape us. So, shape yours. And when you're done, let it shape you into someone who can stand, steady and kind, in a dark hallway and say the line that refuses to die. This is my finest hour. Not someday. This hour. Right now.